Hi there, everybody. I just wanted to touch base with everyone about the ISEL scores that will be coming home either today or tomorrow. So, ISEL stands for Illinois Snapshots of Early Literacy. They are very highly regarded nationally and are used across other states as well besides Illinois. And we use them in District 93 for students in kindergarten and first grade. Get ISEL'd 3 times a year. The test is done one-on-one, so it's a very valid measure of the student's performance. And the test is done at the beginning of the year, the middle of the year, so in like December, and at the end of the year. And what we want to see is that throughout kindergarten and first grade, the students are gaining success on their ability to perform each individual. It's called Snapshot. So what I'm going to go over today with you are the different snapshots, what they mean, and how you can help your child at home, as well as what that report means to you. Okay, so what you will receive is the student test history report, okay, and this is an example of the student test history, and this is the normed version. So what you can see across the top are the different snapshot names, and then you can see the history throughout. So it goes the first test that was ever given. So for example, this student whose name I've covered up was a student here in kindergarten. So you can see his 3 tests as well as the fall test of first grade. Okay. And so what the red scores mean, those are what we like to call emergency scores. So these are areas in which the student is struggling extremely. So they're 20th percentile or below for the reds, and that would be an area if your student has a red come home on any of their snapshots, that would be something that you would really be concerned about. Okay, the yellow, that's at risk. So your child would be at risk for struggling in that area, but an at-risk score is also something that we really are concerned about, and your child does need some help in that area. Okay, and a green score means your child is doing pretty well in that area. It doesn't mean they're perfect, and it doesn't mean they can't learn more, but it does mean that they're pretty solid on those foundational skills. Okay, please disregard the last column, the average percentile, as you notice there are dashes in some of your child's, so you can kind of see the dashes. That indicates that this child was not given all the snapshots, and we do not give the snapshots to all the children. Some are missing, so the average percentile is inaccurate. So you want to look at each column individually when thinking about how to help your child. Okay, so let's get started. So the first column you will see on the report is alphabet recognition, and that's pretty standard. And what your child is asked to do is say the specific names of the uppercase and lowercase letters of the alphabet. And this also includes the fancy G and fancy A. So that means, let me see if I can write it behind me here. That would be the A that looks like this, and the G that looks like, well, that's not a very good version. You know what I mean. So the A and the G, like that, okay? As well as the regular lowercase a and the regular lowercase g. So we call those fancy A and fancy G, okay? And if your child has trouble with alphabet recognition, if they're in the red or in the yellow, what you'll want to do is, play games with the letters. You can spot them everywhere. Obviously, letters are everywhere. You can play Go Fish with letter names on flashcards. Read simple alphabet books such as Chicka Chicka Boom Boom, Dr. Seuss's ABCs, Q's for Duck, or just a few to mention. You can ask librarians for some help on finding some great books for that. And then you can also search for and circle letters and magazines, any text you have available for you, okay? The next component, the next snapshot that you'll find is phonemic awareness, and phonemic awareness is your child's ability to discriminate sounds auditorily. So this does not include the printed word, okay? So it's just wordplay, listening, and speaking. It takes all text out of it. So, for example, if I said to you, which one starts like moon, comb, chair, milk. You would say milk because milk and moon start with the sound. So that's phonemic awareness. Notice that I did not show you the word milk and I did not show you the word moon. You just can hear that milk and moon sounds the same. Sometimes it helps to get a mirror and kind of go over those if a child is really struggling. The reason we assess phonemic awareness is because it's one of the greatest predictors of future reading success, is if a child can rhyme and discriminate sounds auditorily. Okay, so you can help by playing rhyming games at home, matching and sorting pictures, or food. So if your child is eating peas and pears, you can say peas. Which food on your plate starts like peas? Oh, pears. Pears starts like peas. So it doesn't require any prep on your part. You already have the food in front of you. You're already eating dinner or lunch or whatever it may be. Super easy to do. Another thing you can do is play I Spy in the car. I spy with my little eye. Something at the park that starts with the sound. And your child would say slide. And again, they don't have to know that it starts with an S. They can just hear slide. Okay? Dr. Seuss books are great for phonemic awareness just because they're super fun and silly and rhyming. And any other poems and rhyming books your child is interested in. Okay, another snapshot that you will see across the top of the ISEL is the one-to-one matching. So what this means is that your child can point to each individual word in a sentence. So this is huge, okay? You know that when your child comes home with those predictable books, I see a duck, I see a dog, I see a car, they are kind of memorizing I see a, and then they just use the picture to plug in the last word of the sentence. But what we want to see is that they can point to each individual word in a sentence and that they know that each word represents, or each point represents a spoken word. Okay, and this is very important to their future reading success. Okay, this is a prerequisite for developing an initial sight word vocabulary, which we'll talk about a little bit later. So all you can do to help with this is point to the words as you read with your child or as your child reads to you. So when your child is reading to you at home, help them to remember to point to each word as they read. And if they're having trouble to do this, you can kind of model it for them and have them repeat it back to you and point. If you are using a book that is yours at home and you don't mind writing in, or if there is a paper book or something printed, you can draw little dots under each word and then they can kind of tap each dot as they're reading each word. Okay, the next snapshot on the ISEL is the letter sounds. So letter sounds are obviously super important for being able to decode unknown words in print. And you can help your child in so many ways. You can use magnetic letters, really any letters you see, just practice, practice the letter sounds. You can even, similar to the I Spy game that I talked about with phonemic awareness, you can say, I spy with my little eye a food that starts with a P. So now you're bringing in the letter and you're bringing in the sound. So they have to know that P says P, and which of my food starts with P, 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 pizza. And then they would tell you pizza. Yes, pizza starts with P, P, P. Okay, so you really want to overdo that. It's important to know that if the student says S for C or J for G, we would say, oh, do you know another sound for that letter? Because J, like giant, does start with G, but the sound that we want them to know first is the G for G and the K for C. Okay? The next column you'll see there is developmental spelling. This is your child's ability to sound out words, okay, and write them down. So it's kind of an ability to use their phonemic awareness skills, so those auditory sound skills that we talked about, plus their letter sound knowledge to write the written word, okay? So we are not checking to see if the student can spell every word correctly. That is not what we're checking for. We're checking to see if the student can isolate sounds individually in words and represent them with letters. So if I said, write the word chop, and the student wrote C-O-P instead of C-H-O-P, I would know that the student knew that chop, the ch, is represented with a C, and they weren't quite sure what other letter. I would know that they knew that ah, oh makes that sound. And I would also know that they knew that cha, comes at the end. So teachers can really use this developmental spelling to gain an insight into a child's thinking about words and to know if the child can hear all the sound components in a word and represent them. So you can just do any writing at home and really let your child be inventive. We don't want to inhibit them by saying, oh, you must spell it correctly. It's can they sound out the word and represent it to the best of their ability. We want them to be inventive spellers and brave spellers. There are some words we can't sound out, like they and could, but many words, even they and could, if they don't know how to spell it, as beginning writers, they can do their best to represent it with the sounds they hear on the paper. And we don't want them to be inhibited and think that every word has to be spelled exactly like it looks in a book. Because we know that, even as adults, there are some words we just have to look up and be brave and spell them out and then move on with our writing. Okay? The next word is the next snapshot is word recognition. And this is your child's ability to know their sight words upon sight. And this is not all of the sight words that they'll ever learn. It's just a collection of sight words, okay? A good representation from easiest to hardest sight words. And I have a video all about sight words, so I'm just going to link it below and you can watch that video if you're interested in learning how you can help your child with sight words. But what we do know is as the number of sight words increases for a child, less attention may be devoted on word recognition. So what that means is your short-term memory while you're reading, if their short-term memory is devoted 100% to sounding out each and every word in a sentence, then they will not remember what they're reading. They will not remember what they're supposed to be comprehending. And that's the purpose of reading. So what we know is that if a child has a large sight word vocabulary, so they can read words at flash speed, common words found in text, such as came and the and one, those are words that we need them to know upon sight. They should not be stopping to sound them out. If they are stopping to sound out every word, they will not remember what they are reading. They will not understand. The purpose of reading is to comprehend, okay? So really the best way to help your child with sight words is to play games with sight words and read. Again, I will link my video below. Sight words are so important at the first grade level and towards the second and third trimester of kindergarten, and I really strongly urge you to take a look at the other video about sight words. Okay, the next column is passage reading, and kindergarten students are not assessed on this at the beginning of the year, but as we get into the end of kindergarten and all throughout first grade, passage reading is so important, and really it just means book reading, okay? The students read a book, we ask them comprehension questions, and if they are able to read that book, we go up to the next level of book, all the way through the end of first grade level. So it goes beginning of kindergarten level all the way through a sampling towards the end of first grade level. Okay, and really we're just seeing if they can integrate all those literacy skills that we already assessed them on, from alphabet recognition, phonemic awareness, letter sounds, word recognition. Can they put all those puzzle pieces together into a larger text and comprehend it, which is the bottom line, big goal for reading, okay? Please read to your child every evening. The research suggests that 20 minutes is the minimum. It makes such a huge difference, and it doesn't have to be 20 consecutive minutes. It can be 5 minutes in the morning after you're done getting ready. You have 5 minutes before you leave. It can be in the car. Your child is reading to you on the way to football practice. It can be your child is reading to a sibling before bed. Okay, your child can read to a teddy bear. Your child can read to your pet. So please make reading a part of your routine. If your child really is a beginning reader and you're having trouble finding books at your child's level that your child can read, you can read and they can repeat. Or even reading to your child is so important. Even as they learn to read, don't forget to read to them too. Okay, and then the last column is fluency. And most students are not assessed in fluency until first grade because it really is a bigger skill than even reading from a book. The fluency score is from a passage that does not have pictures. It's a little bit tricky of a text. It's more of a first grade level, mid to end of the year first grade level. And what we're looking for is the student's rate of reading appropriate, as well as their expression and their accuracy. So, and it is a minute passage. So they do the best they can, and we stop after 1 minute. And fluency is highly correlated with a child's ability to comprehend text. But this is not a snapshot that we would really look at for kindergarten or beginning of the year first grade unless the child was an extremely advanced reader. Then we might look at that. But if your student is in kindergarten, you do not need to worry about how fast they are reading. And even if your student is a beginning of the year first grader or even middle of the year first grader, we really do not start looking at fluency until later on in the year. Okay, so the biggies are passage reading, okay, phonemic awareness is huge, and then letter sounds. Really, those are the biggies to look at. You also need to be aware if your child has word recognition troubles, because that will definitely impede their ability to comprehend later on and their fluency later on when they get into the upper grades. So if you have any questions at all, feel free to contact me, but I hope this video was informative, and please use this test as just a good measure to know what your child is what their strengths are in reading and what they can improve upon. The ISEL is a really great assessment, and we find it extremely valuable here at school, and I hope you'll find it valuable at home too. Have a great day. Thanks for watching.